Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of Team Youthprise, we welcome you to Let's Be Blunt, the legalization of cannabis and the impact on youth. Thank you for spending the next hour and 15 minutes with us. As many of you probably know, there's proposed legislation making its way through the State House that would legalize adult use cannabis. We're thrilled to provide a platform for young people to share their perspectives on this. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn things over to our very capable moderator, host of Black Market Reads and good friend of Youthprise, Lissa Jones-Lofgreen.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Lynn. As always, it's an honor. Forgive me. I'm delighted, Lynn, to be here. Thank you. I'm always honored to be the moderator and MC for these important conversations. I'm delighted to bring to the stage Quincy Poe, who's going to help us set the table. What I've noticed is oftentimes in conversations about our young people, we are missing young people in the conversation. So it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome to the stage Quincy Poe.
Thank you, Lissa. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's bill focuses on expungement and righting the wrongs of the attack on the community, particularly Black and Brown people. Some facets that our young people and our moderator, Lissa Jones, will talk about today include health, it includes the workforce, it includes legislation, as well as education as it relates to cannabis. You know, when we talk about youth and when we talk about cannabis, sometimes in the same sentence or in the same conversation, it tends to be a weird space. But I just want to name that it's really critical because our young people, as we are also impacted by the legislation of cannabis, by the health concerns or around health when it comes to cannabis, as well as in our workforce and our education. So having the conversation in partnership with young people is just as critical.
I am so delighted. Thank you, Quincy. And now let me bring to the stage our youth experts. These are the people who are going to talk to us about what's happening, what's on their minds related to this passing of legislation. Let's start out by talking about health. I'd like to bring to the stage Poe, there we go, LaAsia, and Marcos. Welcome. There you are.
Thank you for having us today. I'm excited to talk about the legalization today and how it affects young people.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marcos. Hello, LaAsia.
Can you see me?
We can see you just fine. Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead.
I just want to say that I'm excited to be here and to talk about these things with you guys.
Very excited to have you here. Thank you. And Poe, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. It's really honored to be here. It's so inspiring to be part of this conversation. And yeah.
Fantastic. It's really, I'm inspired to have you here. All right, team, let's jump right into it because we want to hear from you. First, would you share with us your perspective on how cannabis might be different from other legal drugs like alcohol and tobacco? When you think about it, is there one or more of those legal drugs that's more dangerous than the other? And perhaps, what are your thoughts on why it has taken so long for the conversation about legalizing cannabis? And any one of you can pick up any thread you wish, and I will follow you. So what about health? Other legal drugs?
Yeah, so speaking from experiences, right now, I know that other couple states legalize cannabis, and I as well drove all the way to the California side one time to pick up, just to be in a legal state, to figure out how to feel and all that. And as far as other experiences in my life, I do have know that where that legalized with vaping. I know that my nephew, he's very young, and know that even if young person like that already exposed to a legalized nicotine like vape, I'm thinking in the near future, if this does legalize, there is a way that potentially young people might be exposed to this type of legalization.
Thank you. LaAsia, were you going to say something?
I'm still kind of thinking of it.
Sounds good. Marcos, do you have thoughts about the intersection of health and other legal drugs like tobacco and alcohol? Sort of the idea that tobacco and alcohol are legal. Now the question is, should cannabis be legal? And are any of those three drugs more dangerous than the other?
Yeah, thank you for asking me that question as well. I would, from my experience, I would say that I think through all three of those that you listed, if you do too much of it, that's where the problem begins. That's what I see, addiction happen, and I think that's a problem no matter what. But I see it more common with cannabis that it becomes like prescribed by a doctor almost, and it's used for medical purposes. So that's what makes me think a little bit differently about cannabis. I'm not completely sure that the other ones are not, but I know that cannabis is a little bit more common when it comes to medical use. And I've seen some benefits that have happened through cannabis, whether it be for injuries through sports or heart problems as well. But I really think that there's a fine line though that you cannot cross when it comes to abuse of the drug. Technically it is right now, of course, but that's where the problem begins, once abuse happens, I think.
Yeah, I really like that, Marcos. And
Yeah, I definitely.
and I do have friends who use cannabis for medical purpose. And like Marco was saying, there is a line that shouldn't be crossed, and there could be addiction. There is a study that I read a lot, and it shows that young people, as also similar to adults, they do get addicted when it's too much use, all that.
Thank you. So you're saying up to a line, any one of them might be acceptable, but every one of them has a line. Okay. Leasia, did you want to say something?
I kind of agree with what Marcos has said, because I know that cannabis is used for like some medications and stuff like that. And out of the three, I would feel like, because I know about nicotine and the vapes and stuff, and I know how it affects people in a way to where it's like what he said, the abuse, when you use it too much, then now you're so it's something wrong with you, you're in a hospital and stuff like that. So I feel like cannabis isn't that bad because it's used for medical purposes, but nicotine and other stuff like that, I feel like it takes a toll on people's bodies.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Is cannabis safer or less safe for young people than it is for adults?
So that's a really good question. And from my understanding, and as far as the young people that I work with, and from my research, and I know that for young people, it does harm them a lot more as their brain are still developing. And from the research that I came across, there's adults who are like 21 and over, it doesn't harm that as much. But when it comes to like younger people, it does affect them a lot. And when it comes to like academic wise, health, stress, and all that, and also a sign of increase of suicide and stuff like that.
So in other words, your brain is still developing at a certain point, and it has different effects on a developing brain than on one that is further developed at an older age.
Correct.
So it might become safer, so to speak, at
Yes.
21.
Mhm.
Okay. Leasia, Marcos, thank you. Thank you, Poe.
Like what Paul said, younger kids, they're not as developed as older people. So it can probably take a toll on them more than it does for older people. I feel like if you use it, like, I don't know, it really depends on how much like they're used to. Like if it's a medical thing that they got going on, then it's probably different for the kids than it is for older people. And that's just how I feel.
Yeah, so answering that question, I think Poe and Leasia did a great job, but if I was to think about it in more of an indirect way, I think if young people do use it, they have that opportunity or problem that could occur, which is their priorities will start getting messed up. And because they're so impressionable, it can leave a bigger impact on them at a younger age. And so they use it when they're younger. Of course, I'm talking right now about recreational use. They're using it and they become a little bit more focused on that part of their life and getting that dopamine hit instead of doing something else that may be more beneficial for them in the long run. Maybe now skipping school or not going to their sports because they'd rather use cannabis, which I think is definitely going to be more dangerous for them in the long run. I also do think, like Poe said, it should be, if it was to be used recreationally, that 21 should be the age for that.
Thank you. One question that occurs to me is, where do you get your information about health and drugs and alcohol?
So I remember I come across a lot of this stuff back in college, and back in my science classes, my teacher always like share information. And this one time he compared marijuana, alcohol, and meth, and then give us like under those category, like reason why and how much it harms somebody. From like marijuana is not as much as harmful, but then going up to like overuse of alcohol is getting harmful. And to like meth, who is take away all your house, your family, your life, and everything. So like the different threats that it does to you. And I also work at Ignite after school, and my coworker Darian, who working on this policy of cannabis. So I closely hang around him, and I do a lot of research on my own and read those type of policy. So I also dig around and do my research as well. That's where I get some of the data and informations from.
Thank you, Poe. That's really important. And what about you, Leisha? Where do you find your information on health, drugs, and alcohol?
My information, like I've talked to Darian about it. I haven't done as much research and stuff like that, but I do know that my grandma has medication for it. So I kind of like get into that type of stuff for her so I can understand why she needs it, what is it for, and all this other type of stuff like that.
That's excellent. To research what you don't understand is so smart. That is just so smart. I am so excited to be here. Marcos, is there anything you'd like to contribute before we bring in our health expert, our other health expert, I should say, our fourth health expert?
Right. I think my first time I ever heard about really and researching drugs was in 8th grade in middle school. We were doing it for my health class. That was the first time I ever really took the time to actually pay attention and learn about what could be the effects, what exactly is it. I also have just now going through high school, been hearing my information from like people around me, and now being in college, I'm learning from all around me at every point. That's kind of how it works when you're here. But I'm learning through person to person, and also I do some research as well when I feel like I don't understand the topic and what it might be. So I'll take the time to look for that.
Outstanding. Thank you. Let's bring to the stage Elliot Ute. Elliot, welcome. Elliot, welcome to the conversation. You've had the benefit of hearing from our 3 young panelists about their perspectives related to the intersection of health, drugs, alcohol, and everything related. In your role at NAMI, can you talk to us about what your experience is in terms of bringing to this conversation? And then what are your perspectives about what Poe and Leisha and Marcos had to say?
Yeah. So I work at NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And so, mental illness and, substance use disorders go hand in hand often. But I think, something that has, been said by the young people here is that there is a difference between, a substance use disorder and then using, just using any kind of drug, right? And so I think that's an important distinction, right? And sometimes I think people jump to thinking, any use is dangerous or But I think another thing, about education is just knowing the specifics of kind of what you're dealing with. And so, there are specifics that are different with cannabis than there are with alcohol or tobacco. And so, yeah, when I think of safety, I really just think of, and health, it is kind of really important, the context you're in, and why you're using it, which I think, like Marco said, is it, and that's kind of something that we measure mental illness by, there, of course, are, it is an organic brain disorder, and there are chemically wrong things, or things, that doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists can look at, but there's also a lot of things that are just social determinants, right? And two people might be experiencing the same thing, but when we get into, what is a mental illness, a lot of it has to do with how much is it, impacting your life. And so, I think that was something that Marcos was saying, are you skipping school, or are you, starting to have your priorities change because of using any kind of drug? So I think that's important, health and wellness and safety. They, I think we could definitely say there's stuff across the board. And then there's also stuff that, for one person, it may not be impacting their life in another way that it would be impacting somebody else. And it is, important to know that some of that is chemical, some of that is, the way your brain is built and being young and not being fully developed. And some of it is a whole lot of other factors, like what kind of community support do you have, and connected relationships and things like that.
Thank you, Elliot. Poe, Marcos, you're nodding. Tell us what's on your mind.
I like it. It's very very concrete that I'm hearing from Elliot, and I definitely understand. And also, it's like, to me, to be able to sit down with the expert and learning about different side and get the education side of it is very important. Like me learning from one side of where I'm coming from, it's also give me the experience perspective. That's why I'm answering all the questions the way I'm answering it. And it's also like different side to looking at, like well-being, health, and all that, and safety wise.
Thank you.
I agree. Like that's just hearing about it from, like Elliot said, mental health expert in that kind of field with the drug at hand. It's very interesting and informative to hear from him what exactly it might be. Like, what are those things that are happening? Like I'll describe something, but I can't describe it to the T that you might want to hear in more of an in-depth level. So I agree with, of course, with Elliot saying, and it's nice to hear what exactly might be going on.
Thank you. Leisha, is there anything you'd like to say to contribute?
Kind of pretty much the same thing that Paul and Marco says, like hearing it from an expert's point of view, and then hearing it from our point of view to see what's what. It kind of helps people understand it better than just assuming anything.
Excellent. Thank you. Elliot, given that we have a very short amount of time, what is something you'd like the audience to take with them about the intersection of mental health and the legalization of cannabis?
Yeah, I think the specifics and the educational piece are important. There is a pretty direct correlation between using cannabis and very specifically, if you have like a predisposition to having a psychotic disorder or a disorder that, you could experience psychosis, the research and the science says that cannabis can trigger that in a way that if you're not predisposed to that, you might not. And that's something, that we don't see with alcohol or tobacco. And a lot of the things we talk about with the legalization is like the dosage, and we talked about medical cannabis, and those things tend to be very different than some of the things that might be, you might be able to buy. And so I think, yeah, it's really, people use substances, that's just the fact of the matter, right? And so it's important to just know, what are you putting in your body? What impact will it have? And I think harm reduction is really important. Just just do it in a safe way, or as safe a way as possible. And so yeah, I think, knowing the risks for yourself and then making the informed decision is really important.
Thank you, Elliot, for being here. Thank you, Poe and Marcos and LaAsia for speaking with us on this topic. It is a big topic. So this is just the beginning of our conversation. Thanks for being with us today, Elliot, and thanks for all your work at NAMI. We appreciate it. Now, LaAsia, Poe, and Marcos, let's pivot. Let's talk about education, right? We just talked a bit about what happens in education. What do you know? Where do you get your information from? So one of the first questions that I'd like to ask you is, what's your perspective on whether schools are the right place to address cannabis use? Like in health class? What do you think?
Like I said before, my school in my middle school is when I was introduced to kind of like the different drugs there are in more of a informative way. And I don't see how that could maybe even be a problem if that was to keep on going in that kind of setting. Like this is a very informative topic. You should learn about it, learn what happens, learn what it is, what it can do to your body. I think schools, if they're teaching about alcohol, or like you said, even tobacco, like if they're teaching about that kind of topics, I think cannabis should also be allowed to be taught in that school.
Yeah, I agree. School is a really good place to start. It's like the sooner the better, right? If they understand it, if they educate themselves, this could be a prevention so that in the future they don't expose themselves too much and then get into trouble and also messed up where they're going, the brain, that even the young people who are currently exposed to this type of chemical, maybe educate them, maybe that could be a prevention, and also implementing programs to help and resources to help the young people who are already in that exposure to the.
I like this idea. So you're saying, hey, if you're going to teach about health, anything about health, teach about all the things about health. And then that's Marcos. And then Poe, you're saying, look, we can make careers out of this. Intervention early, teaching people education. And we know we have way too few people who can counsel us for all the counseling that we need, especially around drugs and alcohol and mental health. So good insights. Thank you. LaAsia, do you have some ideas about this?
I was kind of going towards we can be making businesses and stuff out of this. Like, it is better to learn it now than later. So then, like, earlier on in life, you're not confused about what's going in your body or what this is, what that is, and stuff like that. So basically what Marcos and Poe said.
I like this idea. By addressing it from our health, we only have one life as far as we know for our health. So we have to just take care of it. And that's a really good idea. Are schools really addressing it, do you think? Are they addressing cannabis? Are they talking about it?
Not that I'm aware of. They do. I do remember having a sex education class, but as far as I don't even know if they do alcohol as well. But cannabis wise, not that. Not in my experience.
Okay.
For somebody that's still in school, they don't. This is not a topic at all.
Any drugs, any alcohol? Are they teaching about it at all in any of the colleges or high schools where you are going?
No, not in my hood. Well, I actually take health right now, and it hasn't been a topic about it at all. It's more so about like proteins and stuff like that, and what we put in our body and how to like make our body stronger. It doesn't say like what we shouldn't put in our body or what's bad for our body.
Interesting. Do you think that if we talked about it in the schools more openly, we could impact reducing use? What are you familiar with the term harm reduction that Elliot used before? Do you know what that means? Okay, you never have to say yes if you don't, because then you don't have to be the only one in the room who wouldn't say that they don't know, but there's a lot of people who don't know. Harm reduction is an idea that if we cannot stop people from using, right, people who might be using a lot, we can maybe help them by helping them to reduce the harm they do to themselves by providing safer ways for them to use. So rather than require that either you're abstinent or you're using, there's some place in between to say you could perhaps do that more safely. That's called harm reduction. So what we're wondering is if you thought about it, if we talked about it in the colleges, if we talked about it in the high schools, do you think we could have a better impact on reducing use?
Most definitely.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. I think the where like a lot of the use happens is when people are just kind of experimenting, they're just learning on it with whoever it may be that has it, and from then they hear what it is, what may happen, what it is, and how it can be beneficial if somebody wants to use it, and so they kind of just take that, and I think that's where some abuse can come from.
That is excellent perspective. Somebody dropped something in the chat I'd really like to get your thoughts about. You know, they said in some of the suburban schools, they teach about it. What does that say, team?
That's really good.
There's a problem. So
But
that's
it
me.
might be good to see some expansion, especially in my cities where currently it's very bad, because I work in the school and I surround myself with a lot of young people, and I see a lot of these issues.
Thank you, Poe. Marcos, I think you had something to say.
Yeah, no, if okay, so in my opinion, if what is stopping them from, of course, doing it all the way around? Stop. Why just does it have to be just the suburban schools? Why are the urban schools that are around not taking the liberties themselves to inform their students of the school about this kind of topic? It's a little bit alerting, I should say.
Yes. So more than one thing can be true at the same time, right? It's really good that a lot of young people are getting the education, but it's not so good if everybody doesn't get it. I mean, drug use just moves around. So it's not like it's going to miss the suburbs. So, we might want to get better with our strategies. In fact, let's bring in two somebodies who know something about education to talk with us about this, because I think that we can expand our conversation with our experts, adding 2 additional experts to our panel. I'd like to bring forward Quincy and Christy from Youthprise to invite them into this education conversation with our resident experts. Welcome, Quincy. Welcome, Christy.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm just so struck with what you guys have been talking about. Like in the first segment, I heard you guys talking a lot about where you learned about cannabis, and none of you said from school. You talked about from your friends, from Darian, from other people, like from your own research. And then in the second segment, and you talked about like you could learn about it from school in health class, but that none of you actually learned about it from health class. So I do think it's interesting, that conflict that you named. And so like, would it be effective if you learned about it in schools, or would it be more impactful if you like taught each other?
And Christy, also, I do think that Marcos maybe had like said they touched up on it in a middle school class. I think that goes back to something that they all were saying, like, is if we talked about it more, if we included it in the conversation as we include tobacco and alcohol, which we talk about so often, right? And we know that we don't want our young people drinking alcohol as well. And so talking about it allows them to learn more about it, as the young people are sharing with us today, understand the different aspects of it as they're exposed to it, which I think is interesting, because if young people are naming to us that they want to learn more about, what are the harms, what is this thing that we're being exposed to, and I think it should be included more within our school systems.
Yeah, I hear that, but I'm curious to know, like, would you actually, who's more of a trusted messenger, your teachers or other young people, like teaching each other?
What are your thoughts? Poe, you're nodding. Marcos, you're nodding. Leisha, jump on in.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point, and this is a good topic. As far as education wise, school is a good place, and I think that expanding to parents is also important. I think that if parents are aware of these and what the effects it does to young people, there might be sign of preventing and also educating their child. But school is a really good place to start.
So then let me follow up and ask another question. So currently in high school, health is a required subject for 1 semester. just one semester of your entire 4 years. So depending on when you take that health class, you could have of that semester, like Leisha, you were saying that there's also other topics that have to be covered, including like nutrition. You have to talk about different kinds of drugs. You have to talk about sex and like different forms of like birth control and that sort of thing. Consent. Consent is a one-day topic at Richfield High School. So if you miss that day, you don't learn about consent in all of your high school. And so I think like you have all of these topics of health in one semester for your 4 years. So that's the only place that we place it. So what would you get rid of? Because when we talk about adding, you have to talk about subtracting too. And so I do think that this is an important element. But the way that high school works is that your subjects are all like programmed. You have 4 years of English, you have 4 years of social studies, you have 4 years of math, you know, and most of those topics are electives that we don't want to get rid of electives because that's the only reason why people come to school, let's be honest.
So, yeah, so thank you, Christy. Leisha, you have the most experience, I think, in high school health class right now. What's your experience? I don't think we have time to go into the curriculum conversation about what we can add or subtract, but what's your experience in health?
Honestly, I feel like health, because I've had health before, it just goes over like things that's already understood. Like they're teaching the stuff that we already know, that we probably already like learned in like elementary school or middle school. So it's just like we're mostly right now at the moment we're learning about nutrition and like stuff that like athletes can use to make their bodies stronger and stuff like that. We're not really.
I think you went muted. I don't know why. I don't think it was you. Are we all muted?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. It's just I don't know.
Well, I think that we're going to have to wrap this segment, but one thing that I just would plant a seed in, or plant a seed for all of us, is what role do families have in educating? You know, so like parents and aunts and uncles and sister friends and brother friends and, you know, you play cousins and all that, like what role do they have to play in that? So maybe we can come back next time and talk about that. Thank you, Quincy. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. Thank you, Christy. I appreciate you for being here. And team, of course, Poe and Leisha and Marcos, wonderful job as usual. We thank you, Quincy and Christy. Let's pivot a minute if we can. Let's talk about the role of legislation and cannabis. Let's talk about the law. What do you know about the law as it currently stands? And what do you think would change if cannabis were legalized for adults this session? And you don't need to be experts on the law. Just what do you know about it in your own words? I know I don't know enough for sure, so I'm going to put on my learning cap again.
Yeah, I don't know a lot either, but one of my biggest like concerns when it comes to the law and the legalization of this is I'm hearing there's places that are being legalized, but people are still in jail for over 20 years about some charges that have happened, you know, a while ago, like over 10 plus years ago. So that's my biggest problem with this all, and why I think there should be a focus on getting, if you're going to legalize something, that's basically, I'm going to be honest, in my head, admitting that there was somewhere where that should not have been legalized, and it should not have been illegal. So that's my biggest problem with the whole idea that's been happening, because there should definitely not be people in jail for that long, because some of it is actually incredible if you hear it, how long these people are in there for, but people are able to buy it over the counter now.
I love the way you call out the contradictions. This is what young minds do. You see the nonsense and you say, this is nonsense. I love it. Poe, you are smiling. Oh, Leisha, do you want to go first? I'm sorry. I was looking at Poe smiling. I got distracted.
Oh.
You want to go first?
It was pretty much what Marco said. Like, you know, it's illegal in some places and it's legal in other places. And then it's just like the places that it was illegal in, those people are locked up for something that they're now legalizing. So it's just like, what are you going to do with those people? Like, and it's just, it don't make sense to me. I really don't know much about the law for like this topic for real. But it just, I don't know. I'm just really wondering what's making them legalize it now.
You know, I'm so proud of you. So few people are willing, especially adults, are willing to say, I don't really know. They go on and they talk and they wax melancholy and they have no idea what they're talking about. So at the end of the day, you do know what you're talking about and you stuck to what you knew. Thank you, Leisha. Poe, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I wish I know more about the laws and legalization process and how the policy that affecting the government, all that. But I'm glad Marco brought up the points, and I was aware of that topic, and I find it's like, I don't know why, like if you like some state where they legalize it already, and then some people are still in jail for being caught. And I do have experience where I bought a marijuana from illegal states, and I guess it was still illegal once you cross the border, even if you had receipt. But I got charged for that. I didn't want to argue anything because you caught it in my car, but I bought it in the legal state with receipt and everything. But that's where I'm standing.
This sort of the hypocrisy that you can buy it in a state that's legal and then come to the next state and now it's a crime.
I wanted to say, to my point quickly, that I think there was something going on. There was some racial implication that happened in the beginning of this. That's just my take. Sorry if people don't like it.
Well, that's what the data says. It's absolutely amazing to me that the former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, is one of the owners of one of the largest dispensaries of cannabis in the country. And he was one of the people who made it illegal. So I hear you, team. Next up, the law. Very good. How do you think it would impact people who are under 21 if it's legalized this session, or if it's legalized at all? How will it impact people under 21, do you think?
I think if it's do legalized, there's no way in prevent it. I think young people saw, like, majority of them already like exposed to this. And I think that if we do make it strict and legalize it for medical purpose, that might be a way to make it work. But other than that, there's always good and bad in this. And either way, there's no get out of it. Young people are definitely gonna get curious and want to try this now that it's more like legal.
I agree.
Yeah, for me, I'd say the young people under 21. I find this kind of difficult, kind of relates a little bit like the same problem with the Second Amendment and how people are talking about they want to ban guns, but I feel if people want something, we're in a day and age where most likely you can kind of get it. But I think tying back to education, if people learn more about it, then they'll have a different mindset on it.
Thank you. One theme that keeps running through here is adults are not talking about the things that we need to be talking about. Right? So we're not talking to you about drugs and alcohol. We're not talking to you about guns. We're not talking about, is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I feel like it's not all adults. Like my family members, this is something that we have talked about. So I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, I don't know anything about it. An adult has never told me anything about it. This is definitely something that I have talked about with my mom.
I think that's an important distinction, because sometimes that's great, because we too may be having conversations in our small families, but we need to have national conversations about this to prevent things from happening and to change laws, right? We need to take it. Christy, come on in and join us. What's happening in the area of legislation in Minnesota that we can help to support these young leaders in learning about and responding to? What would you want us to know?
Well, you guys might be tired of me coming back in, but I'm functioning as the interim policy director. And I first off the bat, I will say the great thing about the Minnesota proposed law is that there is an expungement office. And so unlike other places, other states that have legalized, that like thought about it after the fact, this is written into the law. So there will be a whole office of expungement they're going to set up and have built into our infrastructure people's whole jobs, who it is to go through, look at everybody's records, make sure that those records are sealed and expunge them. I think this is a huge win in Minnesota. It shows to the extent that lawmakers really were studying and thinking through what other states missed and had to go back and fix, and are still fixing. I also hope that that means that, thinking about our old disrupting with purpose around juvenile expungements, I hope that that has impact for other juvenile expungements so that we can finally get those records completely sealed. So I do feel like that is a huge focus of our law, potential law here in Minnesota. So that's a huge win. I do think that I heard you talk a little bit about medical cannabis and like how that interacts with potentially legalizing recreational use cannabis. And so medical cannabis is legalized here in Minnesota for certain cases. This is about recreational use. And so that would open up the whole gambit so that it would be open to at this point, age 21 and older. There was some amendments where they tried to make it to 25 and older, but that was shot down. So it is 21 and older if it is passed. I think, LaAsia, your question about like, why now? Like, like this would be, it's been happening for so long. Other California and Colorado have had it legalized for quite some time now. Poe, I think your experience of buying it legally in a different state and then crossing, that is frustrating. We're a one nation. I think it has everything to do with the trifecta. So that means that there is a Democratic governor, a Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate by just one vote. So it's possible that that could get legalized this time. And so I think they're trying to maximize this particular moment.
Thank you, Christy. Poe, LaAsia, Marcos, would it matter to you about the distinction if it were not just medical marijuana, if it were open to the general public, so to speak? Does that shift your thinking about its impact or about the answers you've given? That's a great distinction, Christy.
No, my point was definitely meant for recreational, just to be clear,
Okay.
or in
Excellent.
general.
Adding the expungement piece to it, does that make a difference to the three of you? And do you know what expungement is? That's what I should ask. That's a big term.
I think that's huge. Like I was saying, that was my main problem with the legalization of recreational use. It didn't make any sense to me what was going on in different states. So I think that's a very big step that needs to be taken. And like you can't have it. It's completely doesn't make any sense if you were to legalize it and that kind of thing was still going on.
But it is also for higher level charges, marijuana charges, those would still potentially stand, and federal. So it doesn't impact federal charges, only state charges. And, I'm still not totally clear about what will count as higher level and lower levels. Poe, I think you would have yours expunged easily peasily. So that feels like a good step in that direction. I'll also note that the taxation will be the lowest in the nation. So other states tax at like 30%. We would tax at 8%, which would be some of the lowest taxation in the nation. We tax cigarettes and tobacco at 35%. So that feels very different.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Poe. Thank you, Marcos. Thank you, LaAsia. My hope is that the solution isn't racialized, because that's usually what happens. The Black and brown people will still end up with the charges and everybody else will be moving freely. Sorry, needed to say it because, okay, that's just the truth of the matter. And if anyone would like to argue about it, you can just do one Google search and you will see, and especially here in Minnesota. Thank you, Christy, so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your courage, Poe and Marcos and LaAsia. These are not easy conversations to have, and you're jumping right in. So let's talk about what's employment got to do with it. This has a whole component of employment about workforce. So first, let's talk about the whole idea that the use of cannabis can prevent you from working in certain fields. And now, sort of concurrently, the legalizing of marijuana across the country has also produced new career pathways. And you spoke a little bit about this, each of you. Let's talk about the idea of drug tests. So drug tests have been standard practice for many careers: transportation, working with vulnerable people, being in security where you have to be on heightened alert, being in government. In the bill here in Minnesota, there's possible funding devoted to rolling out testing of driving under the influence of cannabis in real time. But this is new territory. So wondering, would drug testing shift your career choices? Would it impact what you want to do for a living? And how should young people be made aware? So that was quite a mouthful, setting the plate for the idea that it is impacting who can do what in what jobs. Will it impact what you choose to do?
Personally, no, it would not. The drug testing, I don't fear that at all. It doesn't make me blink even, but I do see that the drug test, yeah, it's a little bit confusing as well, because I see cannabis kind of as I see alcohol usage, and if there's no alcohol usage test in there, then I don't really understand.
I hear you. I hear you. Marcos, you are very discerning. This is wonderful. Paul, what's on your mind? Leasia, what's on your mind?
This is a really good topic, and with certain field and career, I mean, they do have their own policy to implement, like you mentioned, being a guard to stay alert and all that, to be under influence. And I wish like I had more knowledge on this, but the way I'm coming from, I just, like different company and career have their own policy that they implement. And in the past, I do have to take tests and background check and all that. And I don't have no trouble. I think they're doing what they need to be done to, as a company.
Thank you. So basically you're saying, hey, if the company, the kind of work you're doing doesn't go well with the use of cannabis, they need to just go ahead and handle the testing. And Marcos is saying, hey, if I want to work in an industry where cannabis is not allowed, then I guess I'm, if I want to smoke cannabis or use cannabis, I'm not going to work in that industry. Is that what you're saying? Or that it wouldn't bother you if they did test you? I'm not sure.
Oh, I was saying it wouldn't bother me if they did test me.
Okay, good. I want to make certain I get it right, especially when we're streaming live on Facebook. Teasing. Leasia, is there something you want to add?
Nope, I'm kind of pretty much on the same page with Marcos and Paul.
Okay, what are the possibilities do you think that young people would be interested in joining this industry? Have you heard anybody talk about it as a viable career option? Did anybody really think about it as something they might want to do? Are your friends even talking about having a job in the industry? Is that even a thing?
Sorry, could you repeat that one time?
Sure. Are your friends, the people you're kind of hanging around in your sphere, are they talking about new careers in this new industry that's emerging of selling cannabis, of exchanging, all the things that go with making cannabis legal? Is anybody talking about it as a career? We're actually going to be joined by a subject matter expert who is talking about it as a career. So that's why I want to know, are any of your friends talking about it?
Yeah. I personally, I do not. I feel like, once again, the information we have not been taught in wherever it may be, and whether it may be us just looking it up, we haven't spent enough mind and time thinking about that kind of thing. So like it can be a very interesting industry to go into it, but personally, I have not seen any experience in that.
Thank you. Let me invite Ernest Tony to join us in this conversation. Ernest, please come on in and join our three experts in talking about this, in helping us set the table for employment. If you would be so kind, just give us a minute or so about who you are and what expertise you're bringing to the table so people know we can pick up what you're laying down.
All right. Yeah, thank you. So my name is Ernest Tony. I've been in the cannabis industry for a little over 5 years. I got my start by working at Marijuana Business Daily, which is the industry's biggest business news publication. Was there for a couple of years before starting my own business, BIPOC Can, which directly addresses the lack of diversity in the cannabis industry's workforce, as well as in entrepreneurial settings. So I've spent a lot of time, I'm based out in Denver, Colorado, but have worked with companies all across the U.S. and in the state legal markets.
I'm delighted you're here. Is it a surprise to you that these young people are not hearing conversations in their circles about employment in this industry?
No, this is amazing. I think back to when I was in school, in undergrad and grad school, there was no cannabis industry to to pursue, from a career standpoint. And so I think it's great that you're in a position where you can have these conversations because there are, if you choose to get into the cannabis industry, there's a lot of different entry points, and you're starting to see, universities have programs, and a lot of companies are establishing pipelines to help students, get in.
It's kind of amazing to me, team, that we had something that was illegal. As soon as it gets legalized, everybody's got a business, right? Now the universities have a business. This is very interesting to me. Team, what would you like to talk about with Ernest? Are there questions you have or thoughts you want to share about getting into the industry? Our expert is here.
Yeah, this is awesome and definitely agree. And I feel like your point, like now that a lot of these company jobs are starting to appear, and I'm thinking same thing if these do legalize in these states, and a company or employer definitely might, decide to change their policy if they do need workers.
Yeah, I could see that. I think you were, before I jumped on the call, there was the conversation about, you were talking about employment, and I think about the current illegality status, with it being on the Schedule I controlled substance, still federally illegal. That poses a lot of barriers. Like if that were to change, if they rescheduled, if cannabis becomes federally legal, then all of a sudden I can see, a lot of employers treating it the way you would alcohol. Okay, obviously, like on the job, you don't do it, but you'd have the same type of safety or similar treatment in theory, if that were to come to reality.
Interesting. Marcos, what's on it? Thank you, Ernest. Marcos, what's on your mind?
I just wanted to know what are kind of like the most highest growing job opportunity that comes from that industry.
It varies. I would probably say depending on where you are, but think about this. Like, one of the things that was interesting to me when I started my business was I felt like a lot of folks from back at home where I grew up in Virginia would ask, "Hey, Ernest, how do I get a license to be a cultivator, to get a dispensary, to get a testing lab?" Now, those are all different types of businesses that you could definitely pursue. They're the ones that directly touch the plant. They tend to have greater scrutiny because of the illegality status. There's also a lot more restrictions, on a state basis. Like we're talking about like the tax rates, those plant touching businesses pay a premium in taxes. But for every one of those companies, there's a lot of different roles. So, if you're interested in science and analytics, maybe having a career in, testing would be great. If you are interested in doing something that's more customer facing and working in a retail or a medical dispensary, you're interacting directly with individuals. The bud tenders are the ones that are, knowledgeable about the plants and interacting with consumers. So pretty much any type of job that you can think of, it exists. What a lot of people don't really think of when they talk about the industry is how the majority of the jobs and the revenue come from the businesses that surround it. So in the supply chain. So you need lighting, you need packaging, you need accountants and general contractors, marketers. So, and you're starting to have more and more companies that specialize in those areas. So based off of what you're studying right now, there's probably a place for you in the industry if you wanted to. You just have to find the right people and the right fit.
Right.
Interesting.
I had, sorry, one more quick question. I was just wondering, do dispensaries normally have their own plant then?
Their own plants?
Yeah.
It varies. Right now, it's on a state by state basis. So in some places, like in Colorado, it's a vertically integrated state. So not every dispensary has like their own cultivation, but some of those bigger companies, like they keep it all in house. So like they have a place where they cultivate, and then they distribute to the location. They work. So it's all like they call it from seed to sale. It's all under their one roof. In other states, like in Washington, where it's not vertically integrated, there's more of it's sort of structured so you have to work. There's more collaboration built into it, but it's not necessarily a requirement in some cases, but you're going to see it's going to vary based off of how the states are structured right now.
I want to say thank you. It's very clear to me that I'm going to have to do much more research than a 2-minute news clip on each of these pieces, because each of them is very, very deep and they're clearly interrelated. I'm so glad to have your expertise here. Poe and LaAsia and Marcos and Ernest, thank you very much. Please stay with us. Please come back to the stage if you wouldn't mind, our earlier guests, Elliot, Christy, and Quincy. Please come on back. Thank you to the audience who's been so kind to be active in the chat with questions. And thank you to the events team for putting things up together for us to be able to look at the Q&A. If the team would please drop a Q&A or a question in the chat, that would be great, meaning the events team, and we will keep it moving. Is there any one thing that anybody is feeling compelled to say as we go into Q&A, a one-liner or a two-liner that you feel like you want to get in just before we start answering questions, particularly the youth panelists first?
Well, I do say that I really love being part of this conversation, and like your point, I love to give more information and knowledge in this area and just better understand the whole picture.
Excellent. Thank you,
There's a
Poe.
lot more for me. Yeah, it's a lot more for me to learn.
Yeah, me too. One question that came from the chat: is anyone aware of state level conversation status on health standards and credit requirements? Currently, there are 7 credits of electives required for graduation. I wonder if that would ever shift to include more health. Does anybody have any state standards?
I can talk a little bit. My dog is also would like to weigh in too, but like this is very political, the state standards for graduation. And I think that it has everything to do with teachers unions and what the qualifications of like what you need. So like to PE and health, all of that becomes really controversial. And so it has to do with how many teachers you have at each school, what the classes they want to have offered. In the bill, there is funding dedicated to increasing the number of curriculum, but it doesn't talk about how it then connects to high school standards and how it then talks to graduation requirements. So I don't see those things shifting easily.
Thank you. Anybody want to respond to that? Those thoughts? Thanks, Christy. Ernest, do you feel like there's some potential method behind the madness why BIPOC, as you indicate, people are not more aware of opportunities for employment in the industry?
I can just make some guesses. I think a lot of times you're talking about like the racialized history of cannabis and how it's afflicted communities of color. Because of that, there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of distrust. You've literally had families, entire communities destroyed over, having cannabis possession. There's plenty of data out there that says that Black Americans are 6 times more likely to be arrested and incarcerated. And as recently as 4 years ago, the ACLU was saying how there's 40,000 people who are behind bars for cannabis possession. And the majority of those are people of color. So what happens if you have that record and you want to try to apply for jobs, like your chances of getting reentry into the industry are difficult because there's all those extra barriers too. you might have a record for cannabis, but you don't pass the tests because to get a job because you have a record. And then there's also I think that a lot of times, like in job, you know, a lot of these jobs, especially in this industry, it's very much who you know. It's based off of relationships. So, you know, if you have hiring managers who are hiring their friends and the people that they know, and, you know, there could be, you know, sort of those unintentional barriers to hiring processes that are keeping people out of a chance to get into the industry. So
Thank you.
there's a lot of different factors at play.
That's really helpful. Thank you. You know, team, what I'd like to do is I'd like to open it up. I'd like to go with LaAsia and then Poe. I'd like to go to Marcus, Quincy. I'll just call you out. Each of you, please lay down one thing you want us to pick up from this conversation. So that's a little old phrase, lay down. I got to pick up what you're laying down. Sometimes the radio comes into my facilitating, forgive me. So what's one thing, and it doesn't have to be one sentence, but what's a sentiment you want to leave with the audience, a question, a challenge, something that that sticks with us when we get ready to go. And anybody can start, and I'll just make a roundabout if everybody doesn't get in there.
I could start.
Thanks,
I
Martha.
have to just start with like my biggest takeaway. It should very much be taught in schools everywhere for children, students to be really educating themselves through the use of having to be in school for 8 hours. There has to be some time in that, however long you are in school, 8 months or 9 months or whatever, where there's time for you to learn about specific things, especially something like this where it can be impacting the youth.
I love that. A solution. You got us hostage for 9 hours. You should be doing something constructive with it. Right on, Marcos. I like that idea. Same at work. LaAsia, Poe, you want to go?
I kind of agree with Marcos. The fact that it's only taught in some schools and then not taught in like other schools, it kind of bothers me. And I feel like it's really because of the districts that we have. I know for a fact that my district, my school district, they don't really contribute to anything in the schools for real. Like the teachers that aren't teaching and the staff that aren't staffing, like, you know, like stuff like that. Like, I just feel like they don't put enough in for the schools, and I feel like they're not hearing anybody either. So like if I was to bring up this topic and stuff, I just feel like it would be like thrown to the side, like, oh, it doesn't matter. You're gonna learn this, you're gonna learn that. Like they just make I don't know, like they just make us do what they want us to do.
In other words, there's no student-centered in student-centered. That just is so frustrating. I understand. You're talking and nobody's listening. Well, we're trying to listen today, LaAsia. I'm trying to listen. We're all trying to listen. We need to get better. We need to practice. We need to do better. Thank you for calling us on that. Poe, what's on your mind?
I do want to say that it is do legalize, and that looking at our young people that being exposed to this, that there is, you know, program resources or like to help our young people to like not get too caught up in these, like mental health wise, their career, so that, you know, they don't get messed up with this legalizing marijuana. And there is program and resources and plan to help, you know, look out for our young people.
Excellent. I think we also should be having conversations at the same time. If we're going to talk about legalizing drugs, what about drug prevention? What about substance use disorder prevention? What about the programs that are going to be needed to help people? Because whenever we have anything as human beings, there's going to be somebody who overindulges. So what do you want to lay down, other panelists? What do you want us to know?
I can jump in, and I think you just said it too. Young people want to be a part of the intervention, the prevention, the conversations, and we see that there's so much knowledge out there when we have conversations like this. And when we do it in this way, that knowledge then forms and turns into wisdom, and we're able to move the needle forward. And so I think that's what we should really take away too, is that we need to partner with young people in this way, continue to have the conversations, especially to the things that they're saying that they're exposed to, that's in their faces, right? That they want to know about, that they want to understand, want to be able to navigate.
Thank you, Quincy. Right on. Anybody else?
No.
Ernest, I know you need to run.
Oh, Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Elliot.
Oh.
Hi.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up with what Quincy was saying, you know, about, I think just getting people on the ground and working. I feel like sometimes with policy and big political things that you know, things are going to be legalized. Sometimes it lets people think that, oh, that's going to do something automatically for us. And I guess that's kind of, for me, I'm like, you know, there will be some things that change if cannabis is legalized, and there'll be a lot of things that are the same, like that, you know, mental health will still be about, you know, taking care of your mental health, right? You know, substance use disorder is still going to be about learning how to cope because you can use all kinds of harmful things to cope, and you can find good coping skills, you know, and you know, we had states that legalized, and you know, the way that they applied the law, they still did it with a bunch of racial bias, right? So I think that it's like a lot of things will change, but you know, the work is still kind of up to us to make our communities safe and healthy. So
I like that. Don't wait to give the baton to somebody else. You better carry your part of the relay and let's go. I hear you, Elliot. Thank you very, very much. Oh, and we missed Ernest. Sorry, Ernest. Ernest needed to take care of some obligations. So thank you for being here, Ernest. In absentia, in case you watch this later, it was wonderful. And Christy, is there something you'd like to lead?
Yeah, I mean, just to build on what people are saying is that the thing that really, like, I think that we have to, the prohibition is, it looks like it's coming to an end. And like, I agree with what you were saying there of like, we have to be mindful of what brings us into this next era. But the other states that have legalized did take a portion of their tax revenue to devote to young people, either in traditional schools or in out of school time. And we are not doing that here in Minnesota. We are taking it, and there's some grants that potentially could be given, but because the tax revenue will be so low, will be the lowest tax state in the nation. I worry about that. You know, I think one of the reasons why you hear the messaging against cigarettes that is so top of mind and tobacco is because of the tobacco settlement in the 90s and all of the money that came for education there, and it worked, and we know that worked. And we don't have the same revenue that will come. $2 million is like nothing really when you think about all of the young people in the state of Minnesota. It's like give everyone a pack of chewing gum and they can chew that gum, and then when it's done, then that's all we got, right? Like, because it's just not enough to really do the transformative work that young people need. So I do think that I have concerns about the revenue, and I have concerns that young people deserve more, and I don't think we're giving them more.
Thank you. Let me say thank you to Quincy. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you for being here. We appreciate very much your thoughts, your contributions, and your time. Thank you so much. You know, Poe, Marcos, LaAsia, you know, you sit in a position that's very difficult in the sense that you are young people who have to keep telling other people about what you would like to have happen and don't often have the same tools that the people you're wishing to influence would have to make change. Is there anything that you would like to ask us to be able to do before we leave this experience today? Thank you, Quincy. Thank you, Elliot. Is there anything that you would, Poe, Marcos, or LaAsia, like to leave in terms of a call to action before we go today? I don't know why it was so hard for me to get that question out, but it was. The Zoom boxes kept moving and it messed me up.
I don't have anything particular in the head, but I know you guys are doing the best you can, and I know you guys are aware of moving forward with this, and there's like different angle, and there's definitely young people in the area, and I'm sure you guys know that, and you know, you guys are doing the best you can.
Oh, that feels really good, because some days it feels like I'm maybe not doing as best as I can because the results don't seem to fit. So thank you for your inspiration and your courage. Thank you for what you brought to the call. Thank you so much. Marcos?
I don't have anything right now, honestly. I was trying to think very hard about it, but couldn't think of anything. But again, like Paul was saying, thank you everybody for taking the time to listen to us, and really value our opinions on this topic.
We absolutely do. I absolutely do. Thank you. LaAsia?
I'm kind of going with the same thing that Marcos and Poe said, and it's not more so of a well, no, it is a question. I just feel like the topic needs to be had in school. So like, if I was to like bring it up to like my school board or something, would I be able to like contact one of you guys or anything to like put that word out there with me?
Okay, this is when it all happens. She just did it. She broke us through. Right on, LaAsia. That's exactly what Youthprise is doing. They're able to put these conversations on the map to support young people. Quincy and Christy are chatting. Yes, 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 yes. So yes, let's call to action, and we will all do our best to be there, LaAsia. If we can be there to support you in any way, I'd love to see this conversation shift. That's exactly what Youthprise wants. And in fact, let me say, thank you, LaAsia. Stay with us. Thank you, Poe. Thank you, Marcos. All three of you, I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us for taking the time, for being willing to be vulnerable, for risking it, to calling us to action. Now's the time I want to bring back Lynn and the Youthprise team and ask them, before we take you off screen, if they would like to say anything about the call to partner. And of course, I want to say thank you to each of you and to Youthprise for your faith in me. It's an honor to learn from these conversations and to disrupt with purpose. Lynn, come on back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We definitely would love to partner with you. We would love to support you. Quincy has put his information in the chat. We have your email addresses. We have your contact information. So we will definitely reach out to you and just be a source of support. So thank you again for calling that out. And we definitely need to do that. So thank you.
This is amazing. Youthprise and the young experts we have made change a verb. There's no use in talking about it. I remember in high school, Lou Holtz was a coach. I can't remember what sport, but he came in and the only thing I can remember that he said is, after everything gets said and done, generally more gets said than done. I think that LaAsia and Poe and Marcus are saying, let's do more, talk less, and solve the problems before us. Take care, everybody. Be well, be safe. And thank you, Youthprise. Take care.
That was great. Do you think? Are we going to talk? No one's on.
If,
How do you feel, Marcos?
Facebook?
yeah, Law, can you do the Facebook bit?
Hey, Facebook.